Hi everyone, and welcome to Movie Time with Chris. And today, I'd like a minute to talk about, no, not our Lord and Savior. We're going to talk about The Conjuring today, because it is Sunday, and we're going to talk about scary movies. And I know that I was supposed to have a whole setup that I announced on my last video, where Friday I was going to talk about The Conjuring 3, Saturday I was going to compare all the Conjuring movies, and today we were going to talk about The Conjuring 2, because I've already done a video about The Conjuring, the first one. I'll link that video at the end so you can check that out. But life happens and got caught up with things, so today I'm just going to cover all of those in one. So we're going to talk about The Conjuring 3, we're going to be comparing the Conjuring movies, including The Conjuring 2, which is what I was going to talk about today anyway. So let's just go ahead and get started. You know what? Let's watch the trailers for these movies in reverse order. So we're going to start with The Conjuring 3 now.
Hey! You okay there? Jesus. I think I hurt someone.
This is Ed Warren, here with Lorraine. All right, let's get started.
Residents of Brookfield were shocked this afternoon by the broad daylight murder of Bruno Sauls.
The court accepts the existence of God every time a witness swears to tell the truth. I think it's about time they accept the existence of the devil.
Whatever is going on, whatever happened that day, that was not Arnie.
It's a witch's totem. We think your family was cursed. And that connection's still open.
I'm only interested in reality.
But I can see things that your people can't. Something terrible happened here.
A master Satanist is not an adversary to be taken lightly.
She's doing it again. She's reaching out to the darkness.
Lorraine, you need to come back.
Is saving him worth everything you have? Because that's what it may very well cost.
Lorraine!
Okay. Super excited for that movie. I really was. But let's go ahead and watch Conjuring 2 trailer now.
This is my home. Get out now.
No, this is not your house. Now, what's your name?
My name is Bill Wilkins, and I'm 72 years old.
What do you make of that voice?
Sounds confused. Is he senile?
The voice on this tape is coming from an 11-year-old girl.
They're calling it England's Amityville.
There is a family that desperately needs our help.
After everything we've seen, there isn't much that rattles either of us anymore. But this one still haunts me. Does it feel like the voice is coming from inside you?
More like it's coming from behind me. Like I'm being used.
Janet, are you all right?
Stop calling me Janet.
She She's such a good girl. What's there wrong with her? An oppressing spirit will try to force you to commit the ultimate sin. And what's that? Murder, suicide, or both? You believe us, don't you?
Sensing a presence?
I'm not sensing anything. All I can sense is their own fear.
Honey, you're bleeding. What is happening?
I had a premonition of your death.
Who's that?
The family's just a pawn. Something inhuman wants to kill you. If we keep doing this, you're going to die.
You know, I was a little iffy with this one when it came out, but I think the more I watched it, because my ex was such a huge fan, it really grew on me and I started to like this movie. So let's go ahead and check out the OG of it all, the trailer for The Conjuring.
All right, it's 9:18. We're headed down into the cellar where the doors just opened on its own. Give us a sign that you want to communicate with us.
Nothing.
What are you guys?
Well, we've been called ghost hunters, paranormal researchers.
But we prefer to be known simply as Ed and Lorraine Warren.
There's someone here that would like to talk to you.
There's something horrible happening in my house.
It's November 1st, 1971. I'm sitting here with Carolyn Perrin, who, with her family, has been experiencing supernatural occurrences. You picking up anything in here, hon?
Something awful happened here, Ed.
What is it? Whatever Lorraine sees, feels, touches, it takes a toll on her. A little piece each time.
You have a lot of spirits in here, but there's one that I'm most worried about because it is so hateful. Look what she made me do. We have to get out of here.
That's not gonna help.
This thing has latched itself to your family.
Father, we never seen nothing like this.
I'm coming with you.
No way. I can't lose you.
There's a lady in a dirty nightgown that I see in my dreams. She's standing in front of my mom's bed.
Do you want to see him?
Yeah.
When the music stops, you see him in the mirror standing behind you.
Look what she made me do.
Now, these movies, I've talked about these before because the Conjuring movies are not like typical sequels where someone's trying to recreate the success of the first one with comedies using the same jokes over and over again, which is typically the case, or something like Terminator where they just beat it, and then it's just no good anymore. Yeah, these are unique because these are actual cases that were investigated by Ed and Lorraine Warren. So there isn't anything to repeat, no jokes to keep carrying over or anything like that. Yes, they all have to do with the paranormal because they were paranormal investigators. They were the first ones to do it. Now there's a million shows on, Travel Channel that you can watch about this. So they were the first ones. And that's what makes these movies so good, is that, yes, you're going to get something scary, something paranormal, but at the same time, you're going to get something unique. So that just adds to it, and it makes them so good. It really does. Like I said, the first one I thought was absolutely amazing. I loved it. There's so many things about it that are just great. And you know what? I'm not going to go into depth about it. I did a whole video about it. And again, that's going to be linked at the end. So stay to the end so you can click on that link and watch that video. So The Conjuring 2, again, I was not too excited for it because, again, sequels. I was like, oh, it's going to be the same thing over and over again, whatever. But I didn't look at it from the perspective that I'm looking at it now, where it's going to be something unique and original. And it was, surprisingly good as I took my bias out of it and rewatched the movie again. I appreciated it that much more and said, they got something here. They really got something here. And it brings this whole generation into the life of Ed and Lorraine Warren and all the work that they did. I mean, I've heard of Ed and Lorraine Warren before these movies were out. So it's good to have them and for them to be so successful, for this new generation to be intrigued by them and study their work and buy their books and want to go to their museum and everything with the Warrens. I think that, James Wan did a great thing with these movies, directing the first and second one, and really opened the eyes of the world to the work of the Warrens and kind of made them a household name. So it's really, really interesting with these movies. And again, the second one, I like the whole thing, like what they did at the end of the first one, where at the end, during the credits, you play, the actual tapes of the interviews that they do, and you see the pictures of the things that happened to this family in England, and them calling it, England's Amityville. And everyone knows Amityville. I mean, they've made 2 movies with it, 2 original movies anyway. I don't go into sequels or anything like that with the spin-offs, but they had the original with Brolin, and then the remake that they did with Reynolds. So those are good, but everyone knows Amityville, and I'm originally from Long Island, so Amityville was on the island, so we especially knew about it. But it was just so interesting because this was England's case that was so big and a big deal, and it was just so good to watch. It really was. This is what had the spin-off of The Nun with that second one, and you get the background of the demon Valak, and I noticed it. I thought I noticed it in the movie when I saw it in the theater. Because I look for weird things like that. Now that everything's digital, I used to work in the movie business when it was 35 millimeter film. And we used to screen the movies. And part of the process of screening the movies is to look for any little thing that might be wrong. You're looking for a scratch in the print or a blot on the film or anything like that. So I know to look for little things in a movie. So when I first saw the second one in the theater, I remember seeing the letters built out in a few different places that spelled Valak. And I was like, there's something with that. And it didn't connect it at first. But upon the rewatch, I think that's another reason why I appreciated it that much more, is that they gave you those little Easter eggs throughout the movie. So when I watched it the second time, I was like, oh my God, I pointed it out to my ex and I was like, look at this, rewind the DVD and play, like, look at this right here. It says Valak, like that, the demon's name is right there. And it was with the Warrens through the whole movie. So it was so nice to see that. And the fact that it was put in plain sight, but no one's really going to look for it. So no one's going to notice it unless you're looking for it. And again, I wasn't looking for it. I just stumbled upon it because of the way that I watch movies. I'm that annoying person that sees continuity errors in the film. So that's me. But anyway, the second one, it really is enjoyable. And I'll watch it now just, for funsies. I'll try to find something to watch when I'm trying to go to sleep, something that I'm familiar with and I enjoy. So sometimes I switch it up from my 12 Angry Men because I watch that usually. That's my go-to. But sometimes I'll put something else on. And a lot of times it could be The Conjuring 2 just because it is an enjoyable movie. The first one is more something I want to watch. But the second one is one that I'm so familiar with at this point that I could just play it and play it in my head where I can see the movie. It's really a good watch. But now let's move to The Conjuring 3. Now this one is the most recent film. It came out on Friday, June 4th. And because it was Warner Brothers, this movie did come out in theaters and on HBO Max at the same time. So if you have HBO Max, subscription to them, then you can go ahead and see this movie on there for, I think it's like 31 days that they stream it on there. Or if you prefer to go and get that magical experience of the theater, go check it out at a local theater of yours where you can enjoy it with others, get the gasps, the screams, the scares, you get it all. So definitely watch this movie. Now, my opinion of it, I did not rate it as high. I knew about the story beforehand because there is a documentary on Discovery Plus about the Warrens. And I've talked about that in previous videos. I believe in the Conjuring video, I talked about it. Again, that's going to be linked at the end, so you can check that one out. But in that documentary, they do talk about the cases that the Warrens studied and their life and how they started in the business and everything. So they did talk about this case. Now, this was a case that I was not familiar with, even though it says that, the world knew about it. I was not part of that. I knew about Amityville, though, so I guess I was a head start with that one. This movie, it just didn't rate as high for me, but you can tell that it had a different director. And a director is going to add their own little things to each movie. That's why people have their favorite directors. People love Quentin Tarantino as a director. I'm not one of them, but people love his style. I like Christopher Nolan's style of directing. I think it's great. George Lucas's style of directing may not be the greatest style of directing ever, but George Lucas has an amazing imagination and he can create an amazing story for someone to direct. That's why people love Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, because those movies were originals, but they were directed by other people based on the story that George Lucas had written and created. So different directors add their own different things, but they take from the story of the writers. And this third one had completely different writers, had a completely different director, and you can tell it's almost like it's missing something that the first two had. Now, as far as the spin-offs go, I've seen bits and pieces of the Annabelle movies. I've never watched them in their entirety. I did go see The Nun in theaters. I was not particularly a fan of that one. I didn't really like the story that they told in the way that they told it. But the originals, the OGs, Conjuring and Conjuring 2, I thought were great. And I was so excited for this one. And I felt that it let me down. It really did. I do like that, yes, you're getting more in depth with Lorraine's abilities and her powers and strengths. And you get the foretelling of Ed and his troubles, his health problems, and how they came about. And it gives a lot of that background and that story. And I think that that's good. And I think that if this is where they're going to end it with the Conjuring movies, I think they did it in a good way, with the fact that Ed's health is failing and this work may be too much physically for him at this point. So with him being in a weakened state and Lorraine being so sensitive, maybe it's time for them to bow out of this business. And if that's where they're going with this and that's how they want to end it, I think they ended it beautifully in that aspect. But the aspect of the story of what's happening and what's going on, you know, at the end you get the, like in the first and second one where you get the photos and the recordings, you get the recording of the exorcism of the little kid, David, but there's nothing else. There's not a whole lot else with the case that was really, I guess, documented. You know, you have the story of the kid, Arnie, and how, yes, he was arrested for this. He was found guilty of manslaughter, which is the less charge that you can get for murder. He served 5 years. He married the girl. They're still together. You get that part of their story, and you see their pictures of who the actual people were. But as far as the case with, you know, the Warrens going to the morgue or the Warrens going to that underground museum tunnel thing, you know, that's just them. There was no documentation. There was no recordings of it, no videos of it. So it's kind of, I'm sure that they took, you know, Lorraine's part of the story and Ed's, because I'm sure he probably wrote about it, but Ed and Lorraine at this point, the actual people had passed. So you're just going off of their stories that they might have written. You're not hearing it firsthand. And you have to elaborate to build up the movie. And I think that that's what took something away from it. You know, whereas with the first one, yeah, Ed and Lorraine were there, and so was, you know, the lady, but you had the cop there and the kids, and there was so many people that you could get so many perspectives. And with the second one, you know, you had the reporter who was there for most of it, who was trying to disprove it, and the guy who was trying to prove that it was real, and the Warrens and the whole family. But in this one, it's just the Warrens and the lady down in that cavern. So I think it's missing something. It kind of took something away from the story. They didn't have as much to pick and choose from to build up this great scene. And I think that it hurt the movie. It really did. I'm glad that they told this story, though. I think that this is an important story to tell. It sets a precedent for the legal system, and it shows, again, that background of Ed's medical history and the powers of Lorraine and her abilities, but how she's so sensitive. And I think that, again, if this is where they're trying to end it, they did it in a good way, because now you understand. If they had just ended it with the second one, well, what happened with Ed and Lorraine? At this point, if they end it, people know why. Oh, well, you know, Ed was sick and Lorraine is super sensitive, and it makes sense. It really does. And I think that with this one, they might just end it, because I think a lot of people were excited to see it. A lot of people wanted to see it because of the success in the first and second one. But again, it was missing something. And in missing something, it's just, it's not going to do as well. It's really not. I mean, I know that it is doing well in the box office, but it's not doing as well as, say, A Quiet Place 2. So, I don't know. As far as people watching it on HBO Max, I know a lot of people watched it, but there were more people that watched Loki than saw The Conjuring 2. The Conjuring 3. So I don't think the studio is going to want to move forward with another Conjuring movie. I do think they might continue with more of these spin-offs, more stories to tell, because the Warrens did a lot of work, and, you know, you see the images of what they have, the recreation of their museum, in the movies. So there's plenty of things to pick and choose from. So there's plenty of spin-offs that you can do. But as far as actual Conjuring movies with Ed and Lorraine as the star, I don't think we're going to see another one. But that's just my prediction. And hey, what do I know? But Conjuring 3, it's actually just The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. You can find it again at your local theater or on HBO Max with a subscription. Give it a shot. It's really not that bad. It's not as great as the others, but it's really not that bad. I wouldn't bring it down to the level of covering this movie on a Monday, so to speak. So those are my thoughts on the Conjuring movies. With comparing them, which was something I was supposed to do yesterday, I would put them in numerical order. I think the first one was the best one just because it set the stage for it, laid the groundwork, gave us the foundation. That first one is amazing. The second one was a little less, but very little less than the first one. The second one is still a really good watch. And the third one is a distant third. So yes, as far as ranking the Conjuring movies, I would rank them 1, 2, and 3 in that order. So those are my thoughts on The Conjuring 2, and The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It on this Horror Sunday. But make sure that you subscribe to this channel for lots of other videos. We're going to be talking more Bad Batch, Loki, and a ton more movies. I'm looking so forward to talking about Mark Wahlberg's new movie, Infinite, which you can find on Paramount Plus with a subscription. The movie is maybe not original, but it is a good watch. So I'll look forward to that review. But until then, stay safe and take care.